If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
Blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
The only Native American energies that I've come across are spirit guides. I mean, I personally have one. I call him Seeing Crows because he shows me crows all the time.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with Stephen Williams, paranormal investigator, a little bit later. I believe a couple of his colleagues were supposed to join him as well, but they got tied up. They didn't make it. Not literally tied up. Maybe literally tied up. I don't know.
Spirit rescue, I would say, more than paranormal investigation.
Spirit rescue.
But, yeah.
I mean, the two do really just go hand in hand. And it's fun chat. It's good chat. I think you guys will enjoy it. And yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later after our lazy ramblings here in the intro. We'll probably bag for a bit of money. We'll tell you some other stuff, maybe try and make you laugh here and there.
Read some emails.
We'll read some emails.
It'll get a little deep, too. A little serious.
Will it get serious? Yeah. That's, of course, that's Graham. I'm going to turn 50 next week. Dunlop.
Oh, that's right. When's this coming out?
This is coming out today.
So that's Tuesday the 7th.
Your birthday's in 4 days. You'll be 50.
Yeah.
The big 5-0.
Fuck, it's crazy. Doesn't feel like it.
So you're born in 70.
Yeah. 1970.
Attaboy. I think 50 is the new over the hill.
Probably not. What was it before?
40?
Really?
I think so.
Oh, geez. I still feel young. It's hard to accept. Yeah. I'm just 50. It's just hard to accept it. Like my dad, I think I was like
50 is the new 35 I seen someplace today.
Yeah. That's good.
What does that make 38? I'm like 27 still?
Yeah.
Excellent. I'll make that deal with you. So yeah, ground be 50. Exciting times. Stephen Williams, even more to get excited about.
This is a great chat, actually. I really like his approach.
Yeah?
Yeah. Rescuing spirits. Instead of hunting ghosts, you're rescuing spirits. I mean, it was a really...
Was this the one we were also talking about giving people permission to die and stuff like that, or is that a different one?
No, that was an older one too. But it was, I think it kind of had similar vibes as well, though.
Right.
He's writing a book on spirit rescue. Talked about soul contracts and master energy and suddenly psychic, all kinds of stuff, dark energies.
You guys should enjoy it. Of course, if you do want to skip past all our lazy ramblings, there's always a timestamp in the wonderful show notes Graham puts together. There's a bunch of links in the show notes with all sorts of stuff you can do to help the show while you're skipping our lazy ramblings. Maybe skip, then support.
Perfect.
Perfect.
But we get into some listener emails and some quotes. I got an Operation Project segment too. Project Operation.
I love Operation Project.
But you want to talk about tripping Osaka first, maybe? Get that done?
We're going to go straight to that?
I think so, yeah. Let's do that. Let's start with that. Okay, put your phone down.
Start with our buddy.
Yeah.
From where was he from in Japan?
Well, he was from Osaka, but he travels around quite a bit. I think he's I think he's in an open relationship, and we were talking quite a bit about that. He was on the show once a while back about Bono.
Yeah, we had him on talking about Bono.
Yeah.
Basically
facing your fear,
years ago now, yeah. Dancing naked in the rain.
Yeah, that's what I just pictured. Yeah, dancing in the street naked.
Who'd you pick dancing naked?
Was it me? That was me.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
All right.
Dancing's hard enough.
I think it's raining now.
Yeah.
Supposed to rain tomorrow.
No, I'd probably rather
dancing naked in the rain while streaming on YouTube. Actually, that'll probably get us deleted.
Yeah.
But we are an 18 plus channel, so you could get away with it maybe. I don't know what jingle brings in something like this. Maybe let's go with
Spam Graham.
No, what just happened?
Nothing.
Oh, that was my headphone cord. Whew. I'm going to try and do a little combination here.
Okay.
Adam Curry.
And now another edition of the Grimerican Goodies by the
I should have done that one first.
So this is from Tripping Osaka. Hey guys, it's been a while. Loving the show. I just thought with all the great content you put out there, there's one area that I've always hoped you'd be able to touch on a little more. So this is kind of an email about a controversial show topic. So here's an idea for a show based on a controversial history and current worldwide geopolitical conditions. So I've had this email for a while now, not as long as I thought. So it's been, things were, I don't know if the protesting was happening yet, but definitely with COVID, the economy was collapsing. And so he's got here a bunch of bullet points like corporate political influence in third world countries and puppet government nation states. Because I think he's been traveling around Africa these days. He's always traveling around. Globalism being the consistently freer extraction of goods, but consistently less freedom of the movement of peoples. And then globalization is the continuation of slavery by simply exporting it overseas. And do wealthy countries think that the resources they use throughout their economy that were extracted from developing countries were fairly paid for? Do they assume that the politics of these countries were left alone to fairly reflect the best interests of the people? Often the people put in charge aren't even from the predominant tribes in the country. The anti-apartheid revolution in South Africa has led to the overthrow of the government in 30 years of almost the number one global ranking in corruption, poverty, murder, rape, unemployment, and other forms of devastation while the world still applauds Mandela. The revolutionaries were armed and funded by overseas invested interests. Why? Where's the GDP of one of the richest countries on earth gone? India, the same with Gandhi. Gandhi was the kind and noble face of a movement whereby England could continue extracting wealth from India without any accountability. Why own the country and be accountable if you can't just choose politicians and get whatever you need from the country at little or no cost anyway? Maybe two nice people used as pawns in horrible exploitation. Would you buy something from the shop down the street if you knew that the shopkeeper used violently exploited slaves to make the products? Would you?
Well, sometimes I do. Yeah, I try not to, but.
Does Joe Rogan think that when he surrounds himself in extravagance and lords America as the best country in the world, a country built by slaves and is still currently held together by the slaves of other countries, is it ingenuity and genius that builds wealth or just purely lack of morals? Why is it the resources are, I would question whether that the country was built by slaves personally, but why is it that resources are consistently easier to leave the African continent while Africans themselves find it consistently harder to leave themselves? Goods go, but people can't. African watch their valuable resources leave for overseas on container ships without any form of retribution while they find it almost impossible even to get a travel visa to go anywhere themselves. Theft? What would the world look like if all the companies had to pay fair market price for any resources and only deal with ethical governments who redistributed the wealth fairly and evenly across the population? Would England still be that wealthy per capita? You'd see the tables almost entirely reversed. I think of all the privileged politicians should be forced to see places like the silver mines in Potosi, Bolivia, or the heavy metal extraction mines in Africa. The cost and burden of Bill Gates' billions are being borne by slaves more now than ever, than the Roman elites in antiquity. Instead of harvesting poorer countries of its people, stealing all of its resources for easier, profitable, and less accountable, who drew the lines that defined the countries in Africa? Do they adequately represent the peoples of each region? Who provides the wealth and arms that define politics outside the first world? Did America declare war in the Middle East because they wanted to help the poor people from horrible dictators? Who put the dictators there in the first place? Why? Wealth extraction? An empire without accountability? What's the definition of a slave? Would you rather be a slave on a farm with quite nice living conditions and decent food and weekends off and be able to live with our family and friends in a community? Or would you rather be free, but be working your ass off to make minimum wage and live in a ghetto with drug addicts and convicts and barely able to afford horrible living conditions and disease-inducing diet and not be able to afford to go anywhere anyway. Us?
Sounds like he was depressed.
The Russian serfs mostly felt less free with worse living conditions after they were liberated. The Roman Empire slaves often had more rights and freedoms than free people do today. Is this too controversial to touch?
I don't think we.
I would like
don't
to
touch it.
I would like to have a guest on to talk about it.
I mean, I think we talk about all kinds of it.
Yeah.
We talk about. I mean, we've said things that are exactly in that email several times.
Have we?
Yeah, about exporting slavery overseas with globalism. I mean, we've done. I think so. Talk about the corporate takeover of the world constantly. That's like one of my points.
Yeah. But it would be nice to get into some of that alternative history that people don't see. I mean, but I really do agree with you. It seems like this is by design. It's the corporations that really run the world, international, multinational.
Mm-hmm.
So then he sent another email. I just wanted to read this too quickly. He says, I just wanted to asterisk my last email by saying that while I definitely support protest, I think the current protests might be quite misaligned. I don't support the hate and violence, and I feel the racism point is exaggerated. I 100% think that all lives matter, and this should be a fight against shitty systems, politics, and corporations, and not against each other and identity politics. I think that the powers that be love watching us fight amongst ourselves, and as long as we still use social media and Amazon, buy Nike shoes and flaunt ourselves in material wealth while scrambling and crawling for the American dream, non-Christian people, short people, and redheads are some of the most discriminated demographics in the West. Slavery has existed and continues to exist between black people in Africa just as much now, if not more than anywhere else throughout recorded history. Zulu Empire, Mali Empire. Leaving Africa 400 years ago potentially meant escaping worse fates there. Europeans mostly have enslaved each other. The Gauls, the Goths, the Irish, the Scottish, the Slavs. Even after the discovery of the Americas, a large percentage of British slaves were white. Indentured servants who were treated like slaves, and many completely against their will as well. Black on black killing among civilians and police far outweighs white on black. Oh, he's getting pretty controversial here. All people are suffering under these unfair and terrible systems. It's impossible to say who suffers the most, but I have tremendous sympathy for all. Boycotting these systems would make more sense in the form of supporting local businesses more. Not using social media, less materialistic living, less children, less violence, turning off your TVs, meeting and supporting community more closely resembles slavery meeting and supporting your community more, ecological living and diets, less lying, less competition, less admiration for the wealthy and famous, less fear and death and more appreciation of life, less virtue signaling and more virtuous living. Now there's some solutions that we can all do. I mean, I wish we had local mom and pop shops now. The local stores are going out.
There's a few around.
Under. The amount of conditions and restrictions we place on our loved ones, husbands and wives, more closely resembles slavery than anything being done interracially in the West at the moment. I dislike police in America as much as anyone else, but I realize it's because of a system that underpays and undervalues public servants while allowing billionaires to dictate our society and its values. This fight should be a fight about life versus systems, love versus hate, the world versus countries, people versus corporations, and reality versus media. If America really felt that bad about slavery and the effects of unfair global trade and politics, surely they'd open their borders to all countries and areas of the world that they've screwed over and benefited from in the past. Surely not only American blacks, but African blacks also deserve justice too. Why would the social justice warriors be comfortable with opening, or would they be, with opening their borders to visa-free entry from African peoples? If products can move more freely than they, surely people can too. Quite the asterisk.
That is a hell of an asterisk.
I love how he's got a lot of solutions in there. That one sentence with all the solutions. I mean, honestly, that's great. Less TV, less virtue signaling, less fear of death, more appreciation for life, admiration of the wealthy, less admiration of the wealthy and famous, less competition, less lying. I mean, I love it.
No TV.
Less TV.
Less TV?
Yeah.
Baby steps. A little less at first. Great email. Thanks, Osaka. Or Trippin Osaka. Do we know his real name?
I can't remember it. I always think of it as Trippin Osaka.
So do I.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't realize Osaka was a place until you told me.
Oh, really? Osaka, Japan?
Osaka, your dick. That was out of line.
That was out of line.
A little out of line. Do you want to do a quote or Operation Project?
Let's see.
I'll decide.
It's the profound quote of the week. Darren, can you guess it? It's the profound quote of the week. Can you guess the human who spoke it?
This is from the Octopus of Global Control under the Broken News chapter. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power because they control the minds of the masses.
George Carlin.
I already told you who it was.
Oh, who was it?
Malcolm X.
Was it?
Yeah.
When did you tell me?
Before. You weren't listening, though.
Today?
Yeah.
Like just moments ago?
I said I got a good quote from Malcolm X.
I try not to listen. I don't just spoil it. I'm supposed to guess.
Okay, I got another one.
All right. From Malcolm
Whoever
X.
controls the media controls the mind.
Chomsky.
No. He's a singer.
Travolta.
You went through a little phase of his music.
I did?
Yeah.
Jim Morrison?
Yeah.
A phase. I've been listening to The Doors for 30 fucking years. 25 at least.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Doors is one of my favorite bands. I've still got the book on the shelf. No one here gets out alive. I got that in fucking grade 9, I think.
Wow.
Grade 8, grade 9.
What's that noise?
Oh, you want to do this? I was thinking about putting it off.
Probably classified too.
You know what you can't put off is supporting the show.
Centauri Eagle, Sigma, Mannequin, Artichoke, MK Ultra. Operation Project.
Well, okay, so here we go. We'll do it then. I was kind of going to ask you some questions about.
Well, what questions you got?
Well, just about. We'll do this and then
Operation
we'll get into your
Support
stuff,
the show.
Operation Support the show. Yeah.
Grimerica.ca/support.
Operation Hunting with Darren.
Hunt your face.
Project Merrimack.
Ooh, sounds indigenous.
It was a domestic espionage operation coordinated under the Office of Security of the CIA. It involved information gathering procedures. Now, I don't know. It doesn't have a year here. This is interesting. And of course, this is from
Wait
Wikipedia.
Isn't the definition of espionage like information gathering?
It involved information gathering procedures via. Yep.
Just checking.
So they infiltrated and surveilled Washington-based anti-war groups that might pose potential threat to the CIA.
Oh, yeah, I believe that.
However, the type of data gathered also included general information on the infrastructure of targeted communities. Project Merrimack and its twin program, Project Resistance, were both coordinated by the CIA Office of Security. In addition, the twin projects were branch operations that relayed civilian information to their parent program, Operation Chaos. That was the one I read a couple weeks ago. The Assassination Archives and Research Center believes that Project Merrimack began in 1967. So Project Resistance, which was its sister project, was a domestic espionage coordinated under the domestic divisions of the domestic operations divisions of the CIA. That's interesting, eh? People just doesn't everybody assume it's supposed to be international?
I thought
And they
the
actually have
CIA
a whole
wasn't allowed-
operations division.
Wasn't allowed to
domestic
operate on
operations.
American soil.
Its purpose was to collect background information on groups around the U.S. that the CIA thought posed threats to their families and personnel. That's pretty subjective. From 67 to 73, many local police departments...
Threats like direct threats?
Well,
like,
I don't know.
Or
This
like,
is the thing. Like saying hashtags.
Or what about like Graham could be susceptible to sexual blackmail, so we better just take him out before that happens and he gets his politician uncle in trouble. No?
Yeah.
I think it could be.
Yeah, maybe. Yep. So get this, from 67 to 73, many police departments, college campus staff members, and other independent informants collaborated with the CIA. So this is college campus, police, and independent informants collaborated to keep track of student radical groups that oppose the U.S. government's foreign policies in Vietnam. Wow, I wonder if that's still going on.
No, because now they make fake groups that are bigger to oppose other things so that we don't oppose big things, real things.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that some of the things
That's
getting
part of
opposed aren't real things.
Oh, I'm sure that,
but,
sure it's way easier to
It's
track.
always easier to just keep us fighting against each other than actually fighting against our rulers.
Yeah. And now you don't need like staff members to do it. You just have the internet. I mean, you just have people sitting in an office checking Instagram accounts and hashtags and people that are against the U.S. government and their lockdown on coronavirus.
From the outside, our social media presence would look pretty anti-government.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
How could we caveat this to stay at a future jail?
That's what I'm saying.
We just delete them? Start over?
Nah, they go back. I
Fuck
guess.
it.
Yeah, fuck it. I know it is seeming like we have quite a footprint, you know.
We
It's
have
not
quite a
looking
footprint.
too
At least
rosy.
we're probably not going to get fired from work.
But
for
we're
it.
anti-violence, so I
But
mean,
it could
no
happen.
violence, no
I mean,
violence, no
this
riots.
is why we need support, because our digital footprint could cause us problems
and
at
it could
any
disappear,
time.
Yeah.
What?
It could disappear too. I mean, they could just wipe us off the face of the
Well, I
internet.
meant it could creep into our real life and
Yeah.
get you fired for something outrageous you've said on the show. I don't say a lot of outrageous stuff.
What?
Give me one example of something outrageous I've said. I sure as hell didn't call people abos.
I didn't call people abos. I thought that was what you're supposed to call Aborigines in Australia.
Sure, that sure came back quick.
What? I mean,
Anyway, I interrupted Project Operation.
no, it's done.
That's it.
Yeah, it's done now. I mean, just envision 50 years down the line what they're doing to monitor us. Like you said, injecting all this information. Nudging. See? Yeah. Oof.
You're being nudged all over the place.
I know. Fucking
Here's the thing.
nut.
You're being nudged by corporations. You're being nudged by advertisers. You're being nudged by
the
your
government.
government. You're being subtly nudged by, probably even your friends.
We're just pro.
coworkers?
Let's say instead of saying anti-government, maybe we're just pro-freedom and anti-violence. I mean, I don't believe in violence.
It's pretty anti-government.
Yeah.
But just like the current government, I think I'm okay with this.
Oh, you're kind of
system.
flip-flopping back and forth on the system itself, right? And like your whole libertarian, anti-libertarian aspect.
No, I don't know. I think that we could have a good system of governance if we just could get rid of all the bad actors and the lobbying and the money and make it so that you just get drafted. You get drafted into the House of Commons. You don't know. It's just like jury duty. Graham gets an email. Oh, you're a member of Parliament for the next year or two, or it's 2 years, and that's it. And then you're out. You get like a per diem, and they offset your wage. So whatever you're making in your life, now that's your wage while you're a politician, and free travel and expenses.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. They'd give you some wardrobe money because, we're not sending you to Ottawa in your Grimerica shirt. Probably have to wear a suit.
I got some old suits I can pull up. I just wear my old suits.
There's no way your old suits are fitting, buddy.
Good point.
But, and even straight up to the Prime Minister, it should all be
Then you could stop the money going out to other countries. Like
so then you
Tripping
have all the
Osaka.
MPs.
Like Tripping Osaka was saying, this happens in Africa and these other countries. It also happens in Canada and these Western countries. Alberta supplies energy.
Used to.
It gets sold. It used to. It gets sold overseas.
Why are you talking like Bill Clinton?
We buy. It just gets kind of.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. But the point is, the rest of the country doesn't buy our shit. It goes out. It goes outside and buys other stuff.
What I go back and forth on is democracy. Currently, I'm not sure about it. It's mob rule. It's essentially mob rule. Whatever 50% of the population wants, they get. Which I don't
control the mob, control the rule.
I don't think exactly, and I don't think that works on a landmass as big as Canada. Even with Canada, I mean, I'm not even going to go near the States because that's just a fucking disaster. But Canada, you got almost 40 million people spanned across it's like 4,000 kilometers from coast to coast. So you got people on Vancouver Island, you got prairie people, you got mainland BC people, you got northern people, you got farmers. You got city folk down in southern Ontario and more farmers down there. You got fishermen out on the East Coast. And we're all kind of intermingled with each other's politics. And we're governed by, someplace that's 2,000 miles away. That's a big problem, I think, just in itself. But I still think that some of the Western systems, if they weren't hijacked by corporations and fascists.
Exactly.
Then they were pretty good. Like the way they were designed, when you take the running rim shot on the indigenous cultures that were here out of it.
Yep.
But just those like the American and Canadian systems of government on paper look really good. But I think they got messed up along the way with the money and politics and corporations.
Yeah.
Lobbying, et cetera, and people wanting to be in power. And like I said, the guy if we've got a liberal MP in my neighborhood in Alberta, we don't right now, it's conservative, but it was liberal a few years ago. He don't give a fuck what anyone in Chestermere has to say. He cares what the Liberal Party is doing. And that's what politics in Canada has come to. It's party lines, not... So it's more important that he's a member of the Liberal Party because more Liberals voted here than... Whereas I look at as my constituent should be coming here and figuring out what the local temperature is on that issue before he goes back and makes his vote.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the legislation. I'm going to be available at the fucking blow because it could be done. There's 338 and whatever for all the people in Canada. There's one per 100,000 or something like that. And 100,000 people aren't going to want to go to it. But you could have it where he's on this, he comes here and maybe he goes to a hall and it's on the line and all that shit. And he has this thing and, says what the law is. And then, listens to some of us, kind of like we did with the Olympics here. Remember, they were going to have the Olympics, and they had a referendum where everyone in Calgary got to say yay or nay, and it was overwhelmingly nay. And those fucks thought about overchanging it. They had a conversation about, they don't know what they want, and we're just going to go push forward with the Olympics anyway. And in the end, we didn't. So, yeah.
So that worked on that issue.
That worked at a local level.
Yeah.
It worked because it's very I feel like it was a little more transparent. It was online. There was percentages. Do you want your federal elections online with percentages? You probably don't. That's a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Maybe it needs to come to that. Maybe that's the happy medium. Yeah, I know, but maybe that's the happy medium between what we have now. It's not.
It's a tough one.
It's not easy right now. Like there should be a buy.
That's putting more gatekeepers in the way because now we got to trust whoever's got the data.
There should be some basic principles on not instead of buying overseas oil from Saudi Arabia or wherever, we buy our own. There should be some make or buy decisions that are, you go home first. You buy from Canada first.
But ultimately,
just like Africa should be doing the same thing. They should be supplying themselves and creating their own economy.
Ultimately, I think we're too big. I think the United States and Canada should just dissolve to provinces and states and still have maybe some sort of loose affiliation, like free trade.
Isn't that what the United States was supposed to be?
Kind of like, yeah, or almost even a little bit European Union, but without the laws and stuff like that, but where you can travel freely between, we can travel between all the provinces fine, but, there's no checkpoints or borders. We can trade things fine, but the laws in Alberta are decided by Albertans. laws in Saskatchewan, and the people on the East Coast that are fishing and everything else, they make the decision, not the fucking environmentalists in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Because it's up to those people that have been actually fishing on that fucking coast for fucking thousands of years, you know, or blah, blah, blah. I mean, I guess they haven't technically, but they still have a better idea of what, I mean, they don't want to fish themselves out either. I don't think, you know, they got to keep it sustainable. I mean, it's interesting, like you said, wanted to segue into hunting is like Ducks Unlimited and some of these hunting groups do more for conserving animals than, you know, quote unquote environmentalists.
Yeah, right.
Because they want the ability to keep hunting into the future and for their kids and their grandkids to keep hunting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Interesting. Yeah, I definitely think that
I'd bust it.
Things have to come down a little bit more local. Like
yeah, that's what I think too. I think provinces start with provinces. It needs to be way. It's what I envision it more as just like a giant decentralization of power.
Yeah,
I want more people making decisions.
So would you trade that? Would you trade that for a global? So the loose, what did you call it? You called it a loose.
No, it doesn't work because
no. But what would you call that?
A loose affiliation.
So what if it was a global loose affiliation?
No, it doesn't work because
you get your own autonomous zone Canada, at a lower level, at a smaller level.
Canada can have the free trade and all that because there's no fucking there's like an equalized standard of living. Doesn't work when you start bringing in third world countries, and I mean then it's just like
you're not bringing in third world countries.
Like Osaka said. Where you're stealing, like I would say that loose affiliations, what's allowing people to rape the resources out of Africa and out of the ocean and other places like that.
Yeah, but the loose affiliation right now is a corporate trade affiliation. It's not a governmental affiliation with some standards, maybe some human rights standards, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that was the globalism dream they sold us back in the 90s.
Exactly.
Right?
That's, I bought that in the 90s. It's so funny because I was a bit of a globalist back then.
But the problem is,
it was after 9/11. I was like disgusted by the patriotism.
On the outside, it can all look
what
good,
is going on?
People get in the way, man. We just can't be trusted with doing stuff, not fucking it up. You know?
Yeah.
Greed works its way in, or whatever. Indifference, all that stuff. Anyway,
that was almost my awakening to 9/11 was the intense patriotism that followed. And I was like, whoa, this is off. Something's off.
Ramped up patriotism.
Something's going.
Now here you are 20 years later, they're done with that patriotism. Fuck America.
What?
Well, that's what the media's done in 20 years.
Yeah.
Now they just talk about how terrible America is all day.
Yeah.
No, it's not terrible. Grimerica. And we need your support. Grimerica.ca/support. We have had a bit of hitting the support numbers due to COVID and probably our attitude towards it and some of the things we've said.
Really?
I don't know. So? I haven't heard any of that, but I just see subs have dropped off here and there.
Yeah, well, that's going to happen. Oh, what happened with the one of our guys in the chat was talking about he can't get through on Stripe or something.
I don't know. The one-time donations work right now, but not the monthlies. It's like
just for Stripe only. Or?
Yeah, PayPal and everything works still. You can still do PayPal and Patreon. Stripe monthlies. When you try and go to that page, it's like big security warnings and stuff. I got to get George to take a look at it.
Really?
Yeah, but
that's kind of alarming.
That's probably an SSL certificate or something that needs updating.
Okay. So that's okay. So they can do one-time donations through Stripe. So
or monthly through PayPal and Patreon.
Yeah, and we'll fix the Stripe monthly, hopefully, right? So
we're working on it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we do, we could use some support. If you're getting some value from the show, 400 and some episodes in, maybe you haven't signed up yet, it'd be time to sign up now. Help us fight that churn rate.
Oh, I wanted to advertise our awesome chat in the Black Budget as well. We have that populated in there now. That's with a bunch of guys from one of our chats. Fantastic little round table, right?
Yeah, the Brat Pack round table in the Black Budget.
Episode. And that you can get that Black Budget. I mean, if you can't afford it, just email us. We'll give you a link. We're not, selling it as a paywall thing, but it's extra content there. Then we kind of ask for a donation for that, monthly or any donation, really, right?
Totally. Grimerica.ca/support. If you're getting some value from the show, we put out there for free all the episodes, even some more episodes if you want them for free, but we could use some more support over at Grimerica.ca/support. It would just really help as we go into spring. We're trying to move some more stuff over to the servers, like the chats. We're working on the Mastodon, and we're just trying to we're trying to prepare for the inevitable cancellation that's probably coming down the road, and just have us be ready with our own social media presence and all that sort of stuff. I think the Fediverse will be the answer. We can start intermingling with the No Agenda crowd, Tripoli and all those shows online. I think that's the way to do it. All more server space, all those servers.
And that's free from council.
Yeah,
culture,
it's all on our servers. So we're going to build it all. We're just going to get, the chats and stuff are ready to jump anytime. I think once the Mastodon and stuff's done, we'll just jump everything at the same time. We'll increase the server space. The website and everything's already on servers. The audio could go to our own servers any day, but it doesn't make sense to do it just yet. But that is a reason you want to be in the chats. Maybe you want to be signed up for the newsletter, especially
that's
the
a good
newsletter.
point. Yeah.
Is because if anything ever happens to the RSS feed or the Twitter account or the Facebook account, that email is going to be the only way that we can send you the new RSS feed.
Yeah.
Because if we get shut down by iTunes or anything like that, we'll move all the past episodes onto our own server, and they'll be downloadable from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, same place No Agenda has their servers. So if they're okay, we'll be fine. So Grimerica.ca/support. That's the kind of stuff we do with those support dollars when we have a little more than it takes to pay the bills with.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, that's it. We'll get into the interview.
Yep.
Enjoy the chat. One and only Stephen Williams.
All right, tonight we've got Stephen Williams with us, a paranormal investigator, part of the Memphis Ghost Investigations and, more importantly, Spirit Rescue Group. Welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I love that part about your organization. You're not about hunting ghosts or people, but rescuing spirits.
Or busting.
Not ghost. No ghost busting, right?
Oh, no. We don't bust and we don't hunt. We help. We're kind of like spirit social services.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's awesome.
What does that look like? What does a spirit rescue look like?
Spirit rescue, I work with two mediums. They're clairvoyance and clairaudience. I myself am clairsentient, so I feel the energy of spirits. But we go together as a group. I just take a minimal amount of equipment with me, and over the course of about an hour to 2 hours max, we're able to connect with any spirit energies that are in a place, hear their story, find out why they're lingering there, and offer some counseling. There's a lot of psychology. There's a lot of asking a lot of questions, and then that helps them kind of let go of regrets and burdens and so forth. And then we connect them with people on the other side, and they're able to release and transition. And that helps them, and it helps the homeowner.
Wow. So this is usually going into somebody's residence or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they've actually been they've had hauntings or whatever. They're being haunted, and you go in and help. And then after you guys do this, it gets better for them a lot of times?
Absolutely. Yeah, we rarely ever have to go back. Usually we take care of business on the first go-round. So we were in a house actually on Sunday night here in Memphis. I got called there, and there was an older lady who had lived in the house. Her name was Daisy, and she had done a few things in the kitchen area that the homeowner had witnessed. So we were able to talk to her and find out why she was there and help her release. And then there was a young boy also there. he was a little bit more difficult, but we have some spirit allies that work with us, and they're able to. It's just a matter of raising the vibration or the awareness of the spirit that we're working with. They're kind of defocused or just kind of lost in a sense. Sometimes they're in a mental loop that's kind of like Groundhog Day, the movie, where same thing going over and over and over, and they can't break free. So it's a lot of counseling.
So what were some of the things you might say, like in that example of last Sunday? What were some of the things so you would have to almost speak to her and make her aware of the situation so that she can...
Yes. The medium that was with me was Kayla Bales, and Kayla was unfortunately is not able to join us tonight, or she could have elaborated on this, but she made contact with Daisy, and she was in the kitchen area, and she, if I remember correctly, she was baking muffins. So that was something probably she really liked to do in her normal routine. And we started counseling her, and she wasn't aware that she could stop doing that. So she was kind of in that domestic loop or routine that she had become accustomed to over the years in her life. And then we told her that, she could see her loved ones on the other side. You always try to find someone, ask questions, find someone that they're really connected to. So it was a grandmother for her. She remembered her grandmother teaching her how to bake. And so we have ways to bring those people close to them, and then to point them towards those people where there's a connection, and then they're able to let go of the earthly things that are holding them here and able to go. Wow. And it's not like they're going to heaven or a place far away. It's more like a dimensional, like a vibrational awareness shift.
Interesting. Is there any way you guys can confirm that that's happened at the time, or how do you know that it's actually working?
The way that we know is the mediums I work with are clairvoyant, so they can see. They can see spirit energy, so they're able to actually see a transition take place. Me, I'm clairsentient. For me, it started in 2005 when I was sitting in a slave quarters of an antebellum home of an old house east of Memphis. And I started feeling like a tingling sensation around my crown chakra. Mm-hmm. And by working with about a dozen mediums over the past 18 years, I've learned that if I feel on this side, it's masculine energy. If I feel on that side, it's feminine. If I feel it lower, it's what we call earthbound spirits. So it's a vibrational thing for me. And then if I feel it higher, it's someone who's crossed over, or even like angelic being or master type energy. So when I feel them cross, their energy is about here for me in my sensory perception, and I actually feel it rise up. So that I know that when that happens, I know that they've released.
You know what reminds me of when you're talking about that, stuck in that loop? Do you ever get sick, or you feel you might not even have to be sick, but you're in that hypnagogic state where you're kind of cycling through the same dream over and over? Like maybe you're worrying about work or worrying about something, and you keep sort of going back into it, and it won't really disappear. You keep kind of hitting that sleep, but you're not really fully asleep. But
absolutely,
it kind of reminds me of that in an after death scenario in a way.
Right. There was one house we went into in Midtown Memphis, and we discovered there was a young girl that was hiding in the closet. And when she was she was really distressed, and it was really hard to break through to her and get her to become aware of us being there. But all she would say is, the house is on fire. The house is on fire. So in her mind, she was in the closet hiding, trying to get away from the fire. And we believe that she probably died from smoke inhalation. Right. So by sending her energy, positive energy or higher energy, we were able to help her break out of that loop. And then she was able to actually converse with us. And then we called on someone to come for her. So it's just a matter of finding out, the things that are holding them here, basically. And there's all kinds of different reasons.
Is it usually part of why they died, or how they died, or does the type of death? Yeah. Does it have something to do with it?
Yeah, sometimes I'm not even aware that they've died. It was such a sudden passing, that type of thing. A lot of times religious dogma comes into the picture, to where they have had religious training, and maybe they've done things in their life that they're not very proud of. They're afraid of punishment. So they'll stay here to avoid facing that, ultimatum.
So
We had one guy, remember, he had built a house and he was so proud of his house that he was not going to go anywhere. He wanted to stay there. And people that came into his house and moved in, he would do all kinds of things to get their attention and to, he wasn't really aggressive or anything like that, but he just was very adamant that, I built this house, I designed it, it's mine, I'm staying here. So we talked to him and we said, if you go ahead and release and move on, you can build a better house. And that got his attention.
Uh-huh.
So it's a lot of psychology and from the reports that we get from spirits that do cross over and come back and sometimes thank us and give us a little glimpse of what's on the other side, you can pretty much have what you imagine over there. You kind of create your own reality.
That surprised me. We had an energy worker that dealt with hospice and the death situation. She was an awesome guest. I'll put the link in the show notes. I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now, but it was surprising to learn that a lot of people that were struggling to die were because of material possessions. Like they didn't want to leave their house or a home or these things that I would have never thought that would hold somebody on this plane.
It's crazy to think that a material object would hold someone here, but we've run across that quite a few times.
Wow.
A painting maybe that someone painted, they were so enamored of the painting and it was so special to them, they didn't want to leave it. Kind of crazy things like that.
Yeah.
So best to sneak attack someone if you want to trap them between dimensions.
What's that?
So it's best to sneak attack someone if you want to trap them between dimensions.
Yeah, right.
Interesting. Well, that's like high-level spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Do you ever get involved in something like that?
Well, I've come across some dark energies in my time. These days, it seems like our spirit guides that are working with us kind of steer us away from that, and maybe those cases go to other people. But yeah, I've had a case, one in particular, I remember a lady in Arkansas had used a Ouija board, and she became obsessed with it. Now, what is a Ouija board? It's a piece of cardboard and a plastic planchette, right? It's a toy, basically. So it's not the actual physical object that's creating the problems. It's the intent behind the use of it. So she became obsessed with this Ouija board, and she would go home from work at lunchtime and play with it. And she eventually drew this spirit in who started entering her dreams, and he was very pleasant in her dreams. He was presented himself as a Civil War soldier. And over time, he became aggressive, and she claimed he physically attacked her in unpleasant ways. But when I was over there, there was actually a voice that came out of her that was very disturbing. And so she was not, I don't think, possessed, but she was definitely overshadowed by that energy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that difference between, I heard you mention that before, about the overshadowing versus possession. Mm-hmm. And it kind of made sense to me when I heard you talking about it. Instead of it's not really so much a deep possession, but somebody kind of overlaid on top of you in a way, or?
Right. Yeah, we go into a lot of houses where people express to us that as soon as they move into the house, all of a sudden there's all kinds of family issues, like maybe the husband becomes very angry, and that's not his norm. So if there's an angry spirit in a certain location, they can project that emotion, and people that are in a weakened state or maybe susceptible to it, they will sometimes be overshadowed by it in a certain sense. And it's very disturbing for the other family members, of course.
So how do you handle that situation as opposed to a normal spirit rescue?
Well, we just go in, we go in with compassion for any spirit that we encounter. So even though they might appear to people as being a dark energy or someone negative, there's always an issue. There was one guy that we worked with, he was an alcoholic. And some people had moved into the house where he had resided at one point. And he was just really upset, and he was kind of in a stupor. He made me feel drunk as soon as I walked into the room. So he was kind of projecting that energy to everybody. And we just, we talked to him and said, we can help you out here. We're not trying to move you out. We're going to talk to you, and explain some things to you. If you choose you want to go, that's fine. And that one took 2 visits. We had to go back because when we left the first time, he was kind of on the fence and he wasn't quite ready, but he did transition. And it was what had happened was he had killed his fiance in an automobile accident when he was driving drunk. So there was a lot of regret there. There was a lot of shame. And we had to finally get down to the nitty gritty with him and try to understand what was causing all this pain that he was lashing out at people as a result of that pain. So he eventually crossed. Plus, we told him there was an endless tap of beer in heaven, and he liked that. He went for that.
Is there?
It is true.
An endless tap of beer? So there is an endless tap of beer?
If you want one, my friend.
So does that mean...
We create a reality here, right? There's a lot of people that are buying into all this stuff that's been going on for the last couple of months. But if you choose to kind of ignore it and go about on your own way and just be safe, your reality is not really altered too much by it. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Totally.
Yeah.
The other side, it's whatever you. Because when you transition, you take your emotions, you take your memories, you take whatever you've experienced in this lifetime with you. So you're still individualized. You become part of the whole more than you are able to perceive here, or most people are able to perceive. But yeah, I mean it's quite interesting how it works.
You think the life? Okay, go ahead.
Does that mean that the suicide bomber will get his 72 virgins?
I imagine so, if he wanted them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might realize that they're not all what they cracked up to be, back on physical Earth. He might realize that, there's more to life than that.
Now, people that do heinous things, there may be some special correctional facility for them. Because we do work with some higher energies. Here's an example. We were working with a little girl spirit at a school that people had seen her since the 1950s. And she actually came into the school office one time. The lady told me that this girl walked in and asked to use the telephone. And she asked her why. She said, well, I need to call my dad. And when she turned around, she had vanished. So we did connect with this little girl. And we did a rescue. So we called on the loved one, perfect loved one, to be brought to her. And her dad appeared. And there was a man at the, I guess he worked at the school. He was a janitor or a maintenance worker. And sometimes spirits will set up little kingdoms where they kind of gather spirits to them that are less dominant or meeker spirits, and they'll kind of have their own little kingdom. So this guy stepped in between the little girl and her father. The medium that I was with could see this. I could feel it. And so instinctively, I called on one of our allies, which is, people would call it an archangel type energy. And I was doing a workshop. And I had about 8 people in my workshop. I had my eyes closed. And when I called on this energy, they said this really bright light shot down the hallway. And he took that guy away. So I don't know where he took him. I guess he took him to some kind of correctional facility or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. So people witness that, yeah.
So there does seem to be a spiritual hierarchy then in that realm.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
In my experience,
yeah,
I can only tell you what I have experienced over the past 18 years and what I've determined to be the truth according to my experiences.
So the life review that people talk about, does that really happen? And is that a perception of hell, maybe, if you haven't been good to people? I mean, is that just that pain and suffering of watching that life review from another person's perspective? Kind of, is that why people think of hell, do you think?
I think hell's probably a self-judgment type thing. I've never really asked any spirits that we've worked with that have come back about that. I've always heard there's some kind of life review where what's the point of this if you believe in reincarnation and past lives and that kind of thing? It makes sense that this is a classroom. So you come here you learn lessons, you progress spiritually, and at the end you get a little review. And if you still need to work on things, you get a chance to come back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that makes sense to me that there is one. But I think a lot of people probably are afraid of that review, because of what they've done. And then they may create their own hell or whatever, or place that's unpleasant because they feel like they need to be punished. It's a self-punishment type thing, self-judgment.
It's kind of like you could turn a mushroom trip south pretty quick too, just by
by the wrong intention,
by the wrong like thought patterns. It's like, oh boy, and then you keep like entertaining them, and now you've talked yourself into all sorts of crazy shit. And everyone knows you're crazy, and you can very quickly get into like
that
a
paranoid
negative loop, and now you're paranoid, and you know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I agree.
Imagine that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that sort of experience was very similar to a psychedelic one.
Probably, yeah.
Well, yeah, you hear the NDEs and people going, and that's when they reach that oneness with everything and that ultimate love feeling and all that. And that's what some people do compare that to the psychedelic. I mean, that's that NDE experience, and that is really quite similar, quite similar, yeah. I mean, even with the entities and maybe the hierarchies too. I don't know so much about the psychedelics, but people that have these NDEs, they see that hierarchy,
Has Corona been... well, I guess good for business. Has it drawn up? Is it drawn up more crap in the Memphis region as people are stuck at home, maybe dealing?
Well, we're on lockdown here. We're in the middle of we got 3 phases of reopening, so we're in the middle of the second phase.
Wow.
I'm a massage therapist, so I just did my first massage in 2 months because we're able to do that if we wear a mask and that kind of thing. But we have not really been out in the field. We did an investigation on Sunday. That was the first one we've done in a couple of months. So we've really just kind of been doing interviews and trying to get the word out about spirit rescue. Apparently not many people know about spirit rescue work, so we're trying to get that out. And then we've got 4 investigations lined up, one on Friday and then some in the next several weeks. So we'll be out doing our thing again. But it's been kind of slow here.
There'll be an influx afterwards. It's pissed off ghosts with everybody at home.
Think? Could be. They're used to getting their place to themselves for at least like 8 hours a day. I like this motherfucker don't leave.
We work remotely, so I actually had a text or a phone call from a guy in Biggs, California last week. And so I corresponded with him by text for a little while and then finally called him. And sometimes I'm able to connect with spirits remotely. And I did feel like there was a feminine energy in the house and a masculine energy in the house. So we had our conversation, and I told him I would try to, help him however I could. Later that night, that female came to me, and I was able to get a pretty good idea of what she looked like and what her name was. So I texted him the next day, and he said, "That's who we've seen in the house."
Wow.
So sometimes we can do that. And actually, my 2 partners, Kayla and Jennifer, these Google trucks Google cars have been all over the country. I don't know if they've been in Canada like they have in the U.S., but there's pretty much a street view of any location, any address. So one of the first things I do is when a client contacts us and we arrange for an investigation to be scheduled, they will send me the address and I'll plug it in and I'll get a street view and I'll send it to my 2 partners and they can get a lot of information off the photo.
Actually, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, have you ever heard of the Monroe Institute and their soul rescue program?
Yeah.
I think that might fit in well, with the, remote viewing or the OBE aspect of it.
Yeah, there's a really good book I read about 10 years ago. I think it's called Suddenly Psychic. I don't remember the lady's name, but she was like an academic. She was a scientist maybe, and she went to the Monroe Institute. She went through the program, and it opened her up just like that. And suddenly she was able to perceive all this energy that's around us that, they say we can only see like a small percentage of the light that's around us. And so basically what we are able to do is read energy. So sometimes we can do it remotely very easily. It's a lot easier when you're on site, but I did help that guy in Big, so
Did anything shift in you to be able to read that energy? I mean, I've every once in a while I get this download of shivers. It used to happen a little bit more often when I was exercising, and sometimes in nature. But it's also happened where when we were out looking for UFOs, like doing the CE5 contact protocol, and I'd have full body shivers, like everything vibrating. It feels like, but I just don't know what to make of it or what it is, or if it's just because I'm excited or something like that. But I'd be interested to know, because you seem to be able to tell like where it's going on. Like you've fine tuned it to the point where you know if it's masculine or feminine. But this was just like the full body type thing.
Typically, when I feel that, that's like a master energy or ascended energy. People call it archangel energy, that kind of stuff. That's the head to toe stuff for me. Everybody perceives it differently. But for me, I started in 2002. I went on a ghost tour in St. Augustine, Florida. That's how I got interested. I took some pictures. I found a group. There was 2 ladies in the Memphis area. This was 2 years before TAPS got on Sci-Fi. So there wasn't a whole lot on TV about any of this. There was a little bit on the internet. So I found these 2 ladies and I sent my photos to them and they debunked them. They said, oh yeah, we've seen that before. It looked like a streaking orb, which I never heard of an orb before I went on that ghost tour. But so they said, go in your backyard and find where a spider has spun a single thread from a tree down to the ground and take a flash picture. Sure enough, there was that streaking orb.
Wow.
But I got really interested, and so I read about EVPs. I didn't know anything about that, and so I bought a little recorder, and there was a little country cemetery really close to where I lived. So I took that recorder out there, and over the course of 2 weeks, I recorded a child's voice, and that was it. And I was like, okay. So I kept sending all these things that I was getting to these 2 ladies, and they said, hey, come on and join us. And so I did. It was 3 of us there for a little while. And basically, at that time, we didn't have any credentials or anything, so we just basically went to cemeteries or some kind of sites that we had read that were haunted. And then all of a sudden, we started getting requests from residential for residential investigations. So the first one that I went on in a residence was where a guy had committed suicide. He was a child molester, and he had committed suicide on the front porch with a shotgun.
Wow.
That was a our house. So that was quite an introduction to residential investigations. But so in the beginning, I couldn't feel this energy. If I did, wasn't aware of it. And then about 3 years into investigating these different locations, I was in this antebellum home where I used to teach workshops, sitting in a slave quarters, and all of a sudden I started feeling this tingling sensation. I thought, what is that? And it lasted for a little while, and then it stopped. And then the next time we went to a different location, I felt it again. So I looked for a teacher that could explain that to me. And I found a lady that had, she was a metaphysical teacher that had been teaching for 40 years. She's in a little area south of Memphis in Mississippi. Actually, John Edward, the pretty famous medium that you see on TV, when he was 18 years old, he came to her facility before he was well-known or anything like that. So, but she explained to me what it was, and over time, working with different mediums, I've learned, like I said, to distinguish masculine, feminine, and it's almost like my spirit guides have kind of divided my crown chakra up into areas, because when I feel it going down the back of my neck, I know what that is. That's the heavy stuff, the negative, dark energies. And that's rare that I feel that anymore, but it's a good early warning system. When you walk into a place and you feel that, you know what's there.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask about the dark energies. I mean, that's one thing I worry about in all these endeavors, whether it's looking for UFOs or tuning into, ghost investigations, or even just
playing D&D.
It's like opening something up and, negative entities coming in.
Here's
and
here's the thing. Like attracts like, and that's a truism. It really is. So if your vibration, your emotional state, your spiritual intent is pure, as high, as good, you're not going to attract that to you. You can walk into the nastiest infestation, whatever, and they cannot come close to you.
Yeah, but you've even talked about, I heard you mention that you've seen some that have tricked, like there are tricksters and they try and they might come in and seem like they're positive and maybe they resonate with you at a certain level, but can they drag you down? I mean, I thought you had mentioned that one had even changed, you know, it started out high vibration and then you saw it shift to lower. Right?
Yeah, the example I can think of right off the bat was we went to a business in Midtown Memphis, and the guy had a lot of things happen there. And at one point, I could feel a feminine energy, what felt like a feminine energy. So I focused on it, and I asked the medium that was with me to also focus. And it was the what it was projecting was the image of a little girl. But here's the thing: they cannot hold that for very long. So if you stay focused on any spirit, in my experience, if you stay focused on any spirit energy for 30 seconds or a minute, if it stays constant and continues to be that, you know that you're working with a genuine spirit. But if it shifts, then it's someone, I call them posers. People call them shapeshifters, that kind of thing. So yeah, they're out there, but they're easy to deal with, and they don't really affect us.
And they can't drag you. They can't drag your vibration down, really. If you're
and come close to your vibration if it's high enough. Yeah.
So do you do something before you go to these places to raise your vibration or to fine tune yourself or
vibration all the time? I don't let things get to me. This coronavirus thing, you know, hey, it'll pass.
Yeah.
It come and go, right? It doesn't affect me. So, the other thing is, if you've surrendered to this work or dedicated yourself to this kind of work, especially spirit rescue, I believe that the other side sends in a lot of protection for you.
Right.
Our guides, before we ever go to a place, particularly one of Jennifer's guides, will always clue us in. You know, in fact, sometimes they'll come in and take that away before we ever get there. So it's almost like it's become automatic over the past 18 years. Actually, I've been investigating for 18 years, but doing spirit rescue for 13 years. I was introduced to that in 2007 down in St. Augustine, Florida.
What a beautiful town, eh? Well, I spent a few days or a week there a couple of years ago. It was gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, I guess, old too, right? For
allegedly the oldest city in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's got so many layers of history.
Yeah.
You've got the Americans, you've got the French, the Spanish, English, American, you know, all over the place.
Lots of spirits needing rescue there.
Yeah. That's actually where I had my first major medium type experience with a little girl named Alice. And I was down there on a vacation with my daughter. This was about in 2002 or 2007 rather. And we were staying in an old haunted inn down there called the St. Francis Inn. So they loan out bicycles and we were riding around the town. It's a great place to ride bikes and just explore. And we were coming back. It was our last night there. And you went there, right?
Yep.
Okay. Tolomato Cemetery. Did you go there?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay. Tolomato Cemetery is a Catholic cemetery. It's kind of behind the main part of the town. And there's a house next to it. At the time it was called the Love Tree Cafe. And there was a little alley between the cemetery and the house. And we were riding our bikes. So I just knew I had to stop there. So I turned in, I had an EMF meter with me, and I knew there was a little girl there. I knew what she looked like. I knew she was 6 years old. I knew she was wearing a blue dress. I knew what her name was. It was Alice. And as I would ask these questions to her, she would answer through my meter. So I would say to her, "You're a little girl, right?" And she'd make my meter light up. And so she was already hearing what I was thinking and saying. And so that was really my first major psychic mediumship type experience with the spirit. And so we had to leave. So we went ahead and went back to Memphis. And then I was invited, that was in July. I was invited to speak at a conference down there, a paranormal conference about EVPs. And so I came back. And of course, you know, the first place I went when I got back there was I went to that alley and she was still there. But I met a medium down there named Linda. Linda's been on, she was on Psychic Kids, on one of the episodes of Psychic Kids, and she was the one who introduced me to Spirit Rescue. So I didn't tell her anything about Alice. And we had been down at the Spanish hospital in the downtown part of St. Augustine. We were walking back to our hotel, and so I decided to walk down that street by the cemetery. And as we got close to that house, she said, "Oh, look, there's a little girl up on the porch." And she started describing Alice. So I knew, at that point, I knew she was a genuine medium. So I told her about meeting Alice back in July, and the next night she went back and crossed Alice over, or helped her release. And then after that, Alice started appearing around me. So she actually works with us. When we're working with child spirits, she'll show up, and if there's a need for kind of an innocent or pure energy that children are comfortable with, she'll pop in and help them transition.
So it's kind of like ghost busting. What was the first, you busting them out of this dimension? What was the first spirit rescue like?
For me?
Yeah, your first experience.
Well, I cannot, I've thought back about that. What was the first one that I did after that?
It was kind of Alice, really, wasn't it? Or
I would say Alice was she was the beginning of everything. I was involved in her rescue because I told Linda about it, and Linda went back and helped her cross over. Then Linda explained to me how that works, because I really never heard of spirit rescue. I didn't know anything about it. And then it seems like people were put into my path. I met an English medium who was 80 years old who had done rescue circles. And that's a common thing they did in England, where they would get together weekly and raise the vibration by singing or do things like that. And they would get the vibration really raised up, and earthbound spirits are attracted to that. It's almost like you create a lighthouse or a real bright light. And we do those here too. I've done quite a few rescue circles here, but she told me that the best thing to do is ask as many questions as possible, because the more you know about that spirit's experiences, the more you can understand what's keeping them here. So I record every single investigation I've ever done since 2002. So I've got thousands of recordings. So I'm gonna have to go back and think about that and see if I can find the first one I was ever involved in.
How often is it more of like a subtle possession than like an outright apparition or spirit, or like, is it ever something where someone's just like, a little off or tweaked because they got a monkey on their shoulder type thing?
Oh yeah, we've run into people, that are having psychological issues. Yeah. In particular, I remember a lady early on that we got called to her house. This is when I was involved in a group that had 8 people in it, which is way too many people to go into a small home. So we go into this lady's house, and first of all, she tells us that she sees a little spaceship that comes out at a certain time every night out of her lamp that goes across the room. So I thought, okay, I'm open to whatever, I'm open-minded. If she's connected with ETs or UFOs or whatever, that's fine. We'll discover that maybe. And then we're setting up equipment and everything. She said, "Well, I'm going to go back in here for a minute, and then I'll come out." And she came out in a nightgown. And she said, "Things happen when I get ready to go to bed. So I'm going to go to bed now, and you all can do your thing." So we thought, no. We're going to go. And we told her, we just couldn't stay there and continue, because that was just a little too weird to have 8 strangers come into your house and change into a nightgown and then go to bed. Something a little off about that situation. So we got the heck out of there. And I've had a couple other situations where people have been living in houses with massive EMF, which seems to really affect people's perceptions, that electromagnetic energy field. And sometimes they'll imagine things that are not really there. What's good about us is we can go in and really sense the energy and know exactly who's there. So we don't have to rely on equipment to try to use a spirit box and try to get answers. It's a really cumbersome way of getting information, I feel. Because I've been in both places. I've used equipment, and I understand how this is a different way of doing it. To me, it's more effective.
Yeah, well, the thing is too, you do this as a service as well, right? Like you don't charge people that. It's like you do this as a service, so you're not out there to prove whether something's real or not, and trying to present evidence to somebody. Like people want to believe it, fine. If they don't want to believe it, whatever. But you're out there helping people, right?
Yeah, we don't charge anything. I've done this for 18 years. I've never taken a penny for any of this. So I'm not out to prove. In the other days, I was on a quest to get the definitive proof, but I don't think anybody will ever get the definitive proof. I've seen 2 full body apparitions, and one was during a workshop in that antebellum home that I was mentioning earlier. So 30 minutes into the workshop, this was in 2006, I had a video camera running, and it was focused on me and my partner, pointed away from a hallway. So about 30 minutes into the workshop, I noticed some movement out of the corner of my eye, and I turned to look, and there was a young girl, looked like she's about 18 years old. I mean, beautiful girl. You could see her features really clearly. Had her hair up in a bun. Her dress was antebellum hoop skirt type thing, and like gold and burgundy. I'll never forget it. She was sparkly, and you could see through her slightly. And we had 2 young guys who had come down from Missouri to participate in our workshop. And I turned and looked at one of the guys, and his mouth was wide open. So he had seen her too. So 3 of us saw her go down the hallway. But of course, the video camera was turned the other way. Yeah. And I'm not sure it even was turned towards the hallway. I don't know if it would have registered or not. Some of this stuff I just don't think you're able to capture. Really don't.
Yeah, it's like you capture the orbs on video, but not seeing them. Or, I mean, some people do get both. They see them and capture them, but a lot of times it seems like it's one or the other.
I remember when Scoob used to go orb hunting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he used to have a girl he went out with, and I never went with them, but he used to say, because this is way before I had any interest in any of this stuff. And he used to go, he's like, I'm going orb hunting. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. And
it should have been orb rescue.
And that was before digital cameras, so they used to have to go get the film developed. And he was like, we'd be driving, and this lady would be like, oh, pull over. And she'd be like, just snapping pictures, and they'd go get it developed, and it'd be all these orbs all over the place all the time.
Yeah, one of the ladies that we go out CE5ing with, she's got a knack for orbs too. She's out there taking all the pictures, and she catches all kinds. It can be.
Attract that energy. Yeah, they really do. When I was down there and met Alice that night, there was a lady who was at this entrance of the cemetery. Her name was Debbie. And I'm telling you, she could just take a picture and there'd be something in it. So they had some kind of relationship with her, and they would appear in her photos. It was amazing. In that house where the girl floated down the hallway, I have seen orbs in that house, and they're about the size of marble usually, and they'll just kind of shoot through. There was also a ghost cat in that house that people would hear meow during our workshops, and I actually saw that. I saw that little cat zip past one time. It was white, and then I asked the lady who owned the house, "Did you ever have a cat, or did anyone ever have a cat that you know of that lived here?" And she said, "Yeah, Miss Annie, the last lady who lived in the house, had a cat named Whitey." And so I did a little asking around, and Whitey's actually buried in the Polk Cemetery in Bolivar, Tennessee. He was so beloved by Miss Annie that she finagled permission to have him buried there to where she was going to be buried.
So how is that cat stuck because she's stuck, or is it does a pet get stuck on its own? Like, I mean, are we going to get into like pet rescue, pet spirit rescue now because they, or is it, are they attached to the owner?
I don't know. I used to work with a guy named Rich, and he would oftentimes see, they had a little dog, and he would oftentimes hear that little dog's toenails as it kind of walked through the house. But I don't think pets get stuck. They're kind of unconditional love personified, right? So I don't think anything could hold them here.
Yeah.
They may come around, probably around people, but yeah, I did see that Whitey, the little cat Whitey, though.
Yeah, you do have a couple interesting pictures on your website about that. There's a pretty clear orb on the porch of that Antiques and Collectibles there. A couple other ones.
Yeah,
as well,
that was. I went back in September to do that conference. Went straight to the house. So that's actually where I met Alice right there. That's the house. That's the Love Tree Cafe. So she was interacting with me with my equipment, and I just snapped a picture. So I believe that's her manifested.
Oh, that's her right there. Yeah.
Yeah. That was before she crossed over. So I told Linda about her that night, and she came the next night and helped her transition.
It actually looks like there's a shape in there, right? A geometrical, almost like a hexagon. See that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I just know that she was interacting with me, and I asked her if I could take her picture. So that's what showed up.
Wow, that's fantastic. So did you get any good EVPs as well along the way?
Yeah, on their website, there's one where I was actually walking to take that picture you're looking at, and I'm wrong about that. The night that Linda saw Alice on the porch, she also saw another girl, and she said she was older, and she said her name was Susan. So I came back the next night, and I asked, there's an EVP on our website. I said, Alice, are you here? No answer. And because the reason she didn't answer, she crossed over.
Nice.
But I asked for Susan, and Susan did answer me. So you'll hear a faint yes when I ask for her if you play that EVP. So I just got to thinking about that the other day. Why did Alice not answer me when I called for her? But it dawned on me, oh, well, she crossed over. That's why she didn't call.
Do you ever bump into Elvis?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to hear about this.
Okay. So, you ever been to Memphis?
I have not been to Memphis. No,
either have I.
But I am familiar with the king.
Most people who live in Memphis have not been to Graceland. I mean, I've lived my whole life with not going there for some reason. I don't know why. But so Linda, my friend, who's the medium who helped Alice cross over, is the world's largest Elvis fan. Okay. So she came to Memphis to visit me one time. And of course, I had to take her to Graceland. So when you go into Graceland, when they take you on the tour, you walk up the front steps and you open the front door, and to the right is a room that has a white piano in it. And we were told that was where he practiced his music. And so I'm standing here, Linda's next to me, and another medium was with us too. And all of a sudden, she leaned on me and she was going to fall. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, he came up and kissed me on the back of the neck. Of course, she could see him. So the other medium confirmed that that's what had happened. I could feel his energy, of course. But so, yeah, he's now Elvis who's crossed over. Okay. Elvis left the building, but he came back.
To creep on.
Huh?
To creep on her.
Well, he was sweet. He was sweet.
Get away with that in 2020.
Yeah, that's
Elvis
right.
would get arrested.
Elvis is canceled.
Yeah, that's it.
He was a really spiritual dude. So he was, he was into all kinds of spiritual things, and I feel like he visits back and forth. We went on through the house, and I could feel a feminine energy all of a sudden come close to me, and that energy stayed with me through the whole tour. And that was his grandmother, is who they saw. And so looked like an older lady. I think her name is Minnie Mae. So I think she liked me.
Show her little skin.
So they can travel back and forth then if they're not, like, they can either be stuck or they can travel back and forth at will?
If you're earthbound, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once you transition, it's like you got a hallway pass.
Right.
So you can come back and forth. Yeah. Right. A lot of times in our experience, when spirits, I used to think they would take a long time. Maybe there's some healing, or something that had to take place on the other side. So I thought once a spirit crossed over, maybe it'd be a long time before they ever came back. But there was one case that we had where there was a lady who was with a young mentally handicapped boy, and I believe it was his aunt. And so they were both earthbound, and we talked to her, and she said, well, no, I'm not leaving if he doesn't come with me. And so we told her, you could help him a lot better if you go ahead and transition. You'll be at a higher vibration. You can actually help him more.
Oh, right.
She left. She came back immediately, and her vibration was like off the scale. So that really shocked me and surprised me that she came back so quickly. So she connected with him, and off they went.
Interesting. So what about good and what about good and evil? I mean, we talked. I think I know your take on this from what you're saying about intention and vibration, and the overshadowing somebody. Let's say like the alcoholic that's stuck or whatever. But
right.
What's your perception of that? Like, is it all about intention? Does evil?
Earthbound spirits?
Well, people or spirits.
Okay, you guys live in Calgary. I'm sure there's areas in Calgary you would want to go at midnight. There's probably some bad people there, right? Well, they don't change.
My bed.
They don't change when they shed the mortal coil. Okay, so they have the same attitudes, the same experiences, the same likes, dislikes. If they're drug addicts, they're drug addicts in spirit. Okay, and a lot of times they'll try to glom onto somebody that's doing that same type of thing so they can have that experience. So when you pass, you don't become wise or a saint or anything like that. Even when you cross over, you don't, from what we're told. I mean, you got more opportunities to grow and to expand your awareness and so forth. But so the ones that we come across that people would term as negative or demonic, typically they're doing things that are trying to get people's attention. They're throwing things, they're knocking, sometimes they're pinching maybe or slapping. But usually it's a cry for help because they're kind of stuck. When the bus came, they missed the bus. So they'll do things until people get so fed up with it or so scared by it that they'll call somebody like us come in. So I think a lot of times the spirits know that there's an opportunity for help out there if they can just create enough disturbance that somebody's going to people are either going to move, leave the place, or they're going to call for help. Now, the really dark stuff, what people would call inhuman stuff, it's out there. But again, if your vibration is high enough and your intent is good, you don't have to cross paths with that.
What about reincarnation? Does that fit in someplace at all, or is that just a crazy myth?
I feel like it's a possibility. I mean, my parents both passed into spirit in the past couple of years. So we have a really good friend here in the Memphis area named Sheila, and she's a fantastic medium. She deals mostly with crossover people. She gives messages from those people. So she brought my dad through. Now, my dad was a World War II vet. He was a great guy. He had a high school education. He never had the opportunity to go to college, but if he imagined something in his mind, he could build it. I mean, he built all kinds of mechanical things, and he was great at that. So when I had a reading with Sheila, she did not know anything about my father, anything about his history or anything. And so he came through and he told her that he was studying architecture. So it's been something he was really interested in here. He just never had an opportunity, to work with that. So yeah, I think this is a journey that never ends. So if you get to the other side and all of a sudden you feel like you want to come back and have some more experiences and work on an issue that you didn't resolve in this lifetime, I think that opportunity is there. There's lots of instances where children have knowledge that they couldn't possibly have of former lifetimes. I've read some books and things like that. So how do you explain it otherwise?
So that would fit into that it's just a ride. You can kind of come and go as you please. And you get off, you're like, I'm good for a bit. But, it's like the people that are still on the ride can still text you and be like, hey, man, we need you over here for a minute.
Well, maybe they're part of your soul family or your soul. Do you have soul contracts and soul families and stuff?
Yeah, I've heard of that. I mean, it makes sense because a lot of times I'll meet people, especially over the past 10 years, I guess, when I've really studied more about this and become involved in some classes and things. All of a sudden, people just show up out of the blue, and you feel like you've known them forever, and you have a lot of things in common, and you're kind of on the same quest, and it's just like, okay, I know this person, this person seems so familiar to me, and they feel the same way. So yeah, I believe like there's groups, they call them soul groups, that come together, and maybe they exchange roles. Maybe, if the three of us were in a soul group, maybe, one of us was someone's child at one time or a spouse or something like that. And you interchange roles to get those lessons that you're supposed to get. And it's kind of a contract you make on the other side, is the way I understand it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Looks like Memphis is like mound country, so there's probably a lot of like Indian or indigenous or whatever I'm allowed to say Indian, just so you know, I am an Indian. So do you run into any of that? I mean, obviously there's a lot of crossed over natives running around down there, maybe running around or maybe not.
Yeah, the local tribe here was Cherokee and Chickasaw. In my experience, I think the Native American peoples were so far advanced spiritually that when the Europeans came in, it kind of corrupted that. And we never run across an earthbound Native American spirit. Now, I have come across places where there's been sacred areas where they will put protectors on those sites. And these are really tall energies. The people that describe them, they're like 12, 15 feet tall.
Giants.
Huh?
Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people are able to perceive that, and they're, it's kind of this didn't feel right, I shouldn't be here, that kind of thing. So one time we went to a site, it was north of Memphis, and the medium that I was with, we connected with a Native American medicine woman who came to us, and she explained to us that on this property there had been a skirmish, and there had been some loss of life, both with the Native Americans who were native to that area and to the settlers who were coming into the area. And so the Native American peoples had put 4 sentinels around the site. And I mean, you could feel them, you really could. And then my partner could see them. So she told us to say a certain thing. I don't remember, I've got it recorded somewhere, but she told us to say a certain thing. And these energies appeared to be dark and dense, maybe as protector, kind of warding off, so forth. But as we said this, they changed and they became more like light, kind of light beings. And the other thing she told us that was really important, which really keeps me in this work, is she said that every time an earthbound spirit crosses over, it has a ripple effect in the entire universe in terms of negative and positive. And it might seem like a really minuscule thing, but she says overall, she told us overall, it has a really profound effect, and it's important. So that's why I keep going.
That's interesting, because I was going to ask you, you mentioned the native aspect of it. I was going to ask about different cultures and if you end up seeing more from certain cultures. And I mean, we're stuck in this materialistic paradigm here for the last 100 years, or at least 100 years. And I wonder if that has a detrimental effect, and more people are stuck because of that, instead of being from like maybe the Eastern religions or from religions that believe in more of a soul type, or even just a spiritual paradigm. I mean, we are stuck living in this weird.
Agree. I mean, think about our culture, so materialistic, and the focus is not on the spiritual mostly, and it's all about money and this and that. But again, I mean, the only Native American energies that I've come across are spirit guides. I mean, I personally have one. I call him Seeing Crows, because he shows me crows all the time. Everywhere I go, I know that he's with me when I see clusters of crows. Kayla who's supposed to be with us tonight, she has a Native American spirit guide who's an Hopi Native American, and he has a long name. I forget, it's so long I can't even pronounce it, but she shortened it. And he will often go with us. If she can't go, he will often go with Jennifer and me, or me if it's just me going somewhere. And he's very helpful. So I don't know how that works and how you're assigned a guide, or if it's a relationship that was prior at some point. I've also had an Oriental guide at one time. They kind of come and go according to where you are in your journey or your awareness. So
are they ever animals?
Animals?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Spirit,
Like spirit animals.
yeah.
Yeah, I wish Jennifer was on the call with us, because she's more into like elementals, and she does have some spirit animals that are around her all the time. The elemental thing is a new thing for me. I wasn't really introduced to that until she came on board last year. But we've been in some places where that's happened, and it's quite interesting to me. So maybe you might want to at some point get her back on, or get us back on, and have her talk about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a hard one to wrap your head around, the elemental thing. Yeah. It goes way back, like thousands of years. They're talking about elementals, and from some of the secret teachings that I've started to sort of open up a little bit more about that recently. We've had a couple guests on talking about, but
what is it? 4 different elementals?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wind, water, fire, air.
Kind of, yeah. That's
these are more like fairies and gnomes and things like that. So there was one property we went into, and there was this very strange energy in there. It felt masculine to me, but I couldn't quite identify it. And I don't know if it appeared or became aware. We became aware because Jennifer was with us, but it was some kind of like gremlin-looking thing, the way they described it. It was really a strange feeling energy, but I could tell it was there, but it was benign. So it was something to do with the land. And again, that's all new to me, so I don't know that much about it.
Is it just the 2 gender energies, or is there more than that?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's kind of a new subject to me. I've got to delve into that
more. Did I hear you mention?
You're not taking the bait.
No.
Did I hear you mention something about when you're talking about psychic or mediumship, about doing it against people's will, being against the law or something like that? Yeah. There are universal laws. So it's a I thought it was like a United States thing.
No, there's a lady who's on TV a lot. I'm not going to name her, but she'll go up to people in a supermarket and read them, without their permission.
Right.
And my spiritual teacher, who's been in the field for 40 years, you don't do that. That's creating bad karma to go up and approach people. Now, if they're supposed to get a message, it can be arranged somehow. Spirit will arrange it to where you're together somehow. But yeah, that's kind of a no-no.
Yeah.
Understand it. I mean, I'm a massage therapist. Okay, so when I have people on my table, I will feel energy, and sometimes a person will come through. It might be a mother or a father, but unless I know that person is open to receiving a message from Spirit, I've never delivered that message.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is that because something happened? Is there a story behind that lesson? Did you do it one time and it didn't go well?
No. I respect my teacher who told us that you don't do that. You don't deliver messages unless someone comes to you and asks for a message.
Do you ask them? Do you ask them beforehand? Like, if anybody comes through, do you want me to say anything?
Well, I kind of, over time, I get to know people as become a client. So they'll talk about different subjects. And then I'm going to bring something up metaphysical. I say, well, I've had an experience. And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, I have. And then, okay, would you be open to hearing something?
Do you have any?
I mean, a lot of people don't even want
to talk about
anything when they're getting a massage, let alone some heavy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I have some that are totally quiet that go to sleep, and then I have some that will, a lot of people just need somebody to talk to, and they don't have somebody to talk to.
Which do you prefer?
Either way, I'm there to serve.
Do you have any energy healing to go along with that massage at all, or anything like that?
Yeah, I was going to tell you. You mentioned earlier that you feel this head to toe thing going on.
Yeah.
Okay? I think one of the things that really opened me up was I became attuned in Reiki.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So did I. So I thought maybe that's got something to do with it too. Yeah,
I think it helped me to open up.
In Usui or Usui? In Usui Reiki?
Yeah. That's I was attuned in Usui Reiki, but I don't use the symbols anymore. Like when I do massage, people are open to it. I'll say, well, I'm going to finish with about 10 minutes of energy work. And what I do is I just kind of empty out. Actually, in my mind, I go sit on a mesa in Sedona, Arizona,
nice.
One of my favorite places.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Vacate, and I ask their loved ones to come through and work through me. And they have some really amazing experiences. So basically, I kind of become an energy channel.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I've noticed a huge difference when I get a massage, whether somebody has energy healing background or not. Like I can feel they're way more present even with the massage, way more focused. They're not just like, like just not even there in the room with you, just sort of going through it.
Right.
Going through the motions. They're actually like right there.
I've had some guys that are 2 in the room. Are they making you wear gloves?
What?
Do you have to wear gloves when you massage right now?
No, right now we wear masks, both the therapist and the client. You have to wear masks. So other than that, and there's a lot of sanitation that goes on. Of course, I always do that between clients anyway, but
it seems crazy to me. You're like right on top of each other, but the mask's going to help. Yeah. I mean, come on. Anyways, we won't go there.
I think you might have asked me earlier how the energy thing began. So it kind of began for me in 2005, I think, in that antebellum home. So I didn't really, if I felt energy in my childhood, I wasn't aware of what it was. Maybe I got the head to toe chills like you're talking about. But when I was about 11 years old, I had an out of body experience that totally frightened me, and I think I shut down.
Oh yeah, right.
For years and years and years, because I was literally at the ceiling looking down at my body, and it was really terrifying. So I think because of that experience, I don't know why I had that experience or why they gave me that experience, but maybe I wasn't supposed to get involved in this stuff till much later.
Yeah.
It was decades later before I started feeling energy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So did it correspond with your Reiki? I think you were going to go somewhere with your attunement.
I think the Reiki opened me up to where I could feel energy better. So I'm actually writing a book right now about spirit rescue. And that's one of the things I'm going to touch on in there is, somebody's really wanting to be able to read energies and spirit energy and be intuitive and put together an intuitive paranormal investigation team rather than just relying on equipment. That's one way that you can really open yourself up to where you're able to perceive it and read it correctly.
I wonder if that has any correspondence to, I always forget about, like the Reiki, and I had a sort of a Kundalini thing happen in the podcast starting, like a lot of stuff started back then. And I wonder if I went back and saw the what happened first, and
we could chart it out, and we could make a graph of your slow decline.
So my advice, if you've had those experiences and you want to explore it further, maybe there's a teacher in your area that you could join a class. I actually put together a development circle at the beginning of the year, although we've only met a couple of times because of this crazy virus thing. But so what we'll do is we'll meet on the first and third Sundays of every month, and we sit for an hour or two, and we do exercises to try to improve our abilities, and we do readings on each other. And it's great because you have, in this group, we're all mediums to a certain extent. Some are more gifted in one area than the other. But say I pick up on someone, and I throw that out there, and then another person across the room says, well, I got that same person, and they add to it. So it really helps you develop. And then there's some books that are really, really good. Sonia, Sonia, Choquette, Choquette. I probably have made that lady a millionaire over the last
Wow.
18 years because I have recommended her books to anybody that I meet that is opening up to their spiritual gifts. And she's written a bunch of books. She's a medium in the Chicago, Illinois area. But the two I always recommend, one is called Trust Your Vibes. So I would get that and read that one first. And then there's one called Ask Your Guides, Guides. So the first one explains how energy works and how to read it and so forth. And then the second one talks about the spiritual entourage that we have around us and how to recognize them. And because they'll send you signs and all kinds of things like that. If you're aware of it, you'll start noticing those things. And then there's a great book about earthbound spirits written by Marianne Winkowski. She's the woman that they based Ghost Whisperer TV series on. And she wrote a book a long time ago called When Ghosts Speak. That's ghosts plural. That's a great book to kind of explain what happens to someone when they get stuck and how to work with that.
Yeah, I'll link to those in the show notes. And then you're going to write a book on the spirit rescue and yeah.
Yeah, it's going to have my experiences over the past 18 years in paranormal investigations and then 13 years of spirit rescue. And so I'll reveal all my secrets and all the, I've done a lot of research. This actually kind of started back in the 1850s in a sense with the Fox sisters when spiritualism came about, and that spread into the Americas and over to England. And it's interesting because I think my guides sent me to a website the other day. Hans Holzer. He's a very famous investigator from like the 1970s or 80s. I think there's a show called The Holzer Files. I think it's maybe his daughter that's involved in that. This guy was doing spirit rescue back in 1978. And there's a video on YouTube. There was a program called In Search Of.
Yep.
And it was in the first season of that, and it just blew me away. I watched it the other day, and he was going to a location with a medium, and she was connecting with who was there, and they were basically doing a rescue. That was amazing to me to see that was over 40 years ago, that was presented to the public, and I guess it just got overlooked in favor of all this provoking and mess that goes on with some of these shows. Yeah.
When do you think the book will come out?
Well, I'm about halfway finished with it. So I'm hoping to finish that up in a couple of months. And then maybe one of the publishers like Llewellyn or Hay House might want to publish. If not, I'm going to self-publish. So before the end of the year, probably by the fall.
Inner Tradition, too, might be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, reach out to Inner Traditions.
Yeah.
Okay.
John Hayes.
Yeah.
And if you decide to do an audiobook, I know a guy, one of the best narrators in the country.
All right.
Yeah. I hire him out on the cheap. I give you a deal.
Yeah.
Shoot me an email.
Books are about spirit rescue. One's written by an English medium, Wilma Davidson, I believe is her name. I've read her book. And then there's a medium up in the New England area in New Hampshire named Amy Major. And she's written a couple of books, and I'll, of course, cite those books in my book, but there's not a whole lot out there about it.
Yeah, it's a good take instead of, like you said, the scaring the ghosts or going in ghost hunting, like actually making a difference, being of service, letting it go. And then it must be great to see the results, I mean, these people like have their hauntings go away, right? They get better.
Yeah, that used to really bother me. I mean, when I first got involved, I was just doing straight investigations for the first 2 or 3 years. We'd go in, we'd get EVPs, we would put trigger objects down, they'd get moved during the night. We definitely knew someone was there. And then we'd leave. Yeah. And the person was in the same predicament that they were in.
Maybe worse. I mean, would it sometimes stir up?
Well, maybe the spirit would be maybe a little bit more frustrated because someone came in and they interacted and they tried to communicate and nobody did anything. Nobody helped them, you know? So after when I met Linda and she told me, it's kind of strange because when Alice crossed, it was like, in a sense, it's like I missed her.
Yeah.
Because she was like my first major psychic experience. So I felt a connection there. And I didn't realize that she would show up later and really be like a personal assistant in a lot of this work. So that was amazing. Kayla, the reason that I put together this new team in October of 2018 was Kayla was doing a mediumship platform reading at a gathering of my teacher that she has every year. So there's like 6 mediums in front of everybody, in front of an audience. And they, one by one, they went through and they would go to someone in the audience and say, I have someone coming through and give a message. So at one point, Kayla starts talking about this little girl. And she starts describing this little girl, and she says she's coming up and poking me on the arm. She won't let me alone. She's just persistent. And then somebody asked her to describe her, or I think maybe I did. And she said, well, she looks like she's about 6 years old, and she's got brown hair. So that threw me off. So I was ready to claim her. I was going to say, that's Alice. You know, that's definitely Alice. But Alice has blonde hair. And then later, after it was over, I went up and asked her more about it. She said, well, it's kind of strawberry blonde. It was kind of light brown hair. So it was her. And other people saw her there. Other mediums saw her. She has like this golden glow around her now. So she's kind of like a light spirit. And so I had actually, at that point in October of 2018, I had kind of semi-retired because I had elderly parents who were having all kinds of health issues. And I actually had to shut my massage practice down for about 6 months to help them. And then when Kayla had that experience and I was there and felt Alice was there, I thought, okay, it's time. We got to do it again. So that's how we started back up. And that's when I created the new group and the new name and everything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Alice she's been involved all down the line for me. You know, in the beginning, she was like my first major psychic mediumship experience, my first rescue in a sense. And then now she's been the catalyst for this new group. And she still shows up. She showed up on Sunday night to help a young boy cross.
Right on.
Yeah.
Do you have any social media or anything like that where our listeners can track you down?
We're on Facebook. And that's Memphis Ghost Investigations and Spirit Rescue.
Excellent.
Our website is memphisghostinvestigations.com.
Right.
Anything else you want to get out there before we wrap up? Any marketing or anything like that?
Well, we're doing a lot of interviews, of course, and if you go to our media page, you can click on any of those links. It'll take you to all the interviews we've been doing. We got some more lined up. There's a really great magazine out there, which I wasn't aware of, called Paranormal Underground Magazine. It's produced over in East Tennessee. And they chose to feature us on the cover of their April issue, and we got the Investigator Spotlight article in that issue. So there's a really good interview that she did with me. It has a lot of information about some of the things we've been talking about here.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, if Kayla and Jennifer want to come on too at some point, maybe when your book comes out as well, you can come back on, or we can make sure you let us know.
That'd be great. We appreciate it.
Totally. Well, right on, Stephen. Thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your stuff with us. And come back. We'd love to have you back when the book comes out.
All right. That'll be soon.
Yeah, keep up the good work. I really appreciate your take on all this and helping people out.
Well, thanks for letting me get the word out about Spirit Rescue. It really is my passion.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Take care, guys. Stay well.
Bye, Stephen. You too.
All right.
Oops. And that was a
little premature.
Yeah, story of my life.
Yeah.
And that was a chat with the one and only Stephen Williams. Fantastic cat.
That was good, eh?
Yeah, it was a good one. I enjoyed it.
I like, you know what? That was another one of those ones where I liked our interview better than the ones I had heard previously. So
did you hear a lot of other ones?
Well, not a lot, but enough that yeah. Huh. Yeah, it was great. That was good. I really like what he's doing.
You really do?
Yeah.
I
never really thought about it before. Like the way they're approaching this ghost hunting is not really probably the best way to do it.
I agree, and it makes for terrible television. It's just like,
off, right? You're pissing the ghosts off.
Totally.
Just help them release.
I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
Like ghost therapy.
Yeah.
Totally. I can dig it. And he does it all for free.
Yeah. I mean, fantastic. It's not even value for value. Like, they asked in the other show I was listening to, they asked, like, would you take donations? He's like, no, whenever we do, they give it to their charity, St. Jude's Kids or something like that. So, wow. I mean, fantastic work, you know.
There you have it. Yeah. So if you think he's some sort of charlatan, there you go. He will not accept money. He just wants to help make people feel better, make the world a better place. We could use more of that. Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Williams. Would have been nice to get the whole group together.
Yeah. It sounds like they've all got different experiences. One's a clairvoyant and clairaudient and clairsentient and all the clairs.
We should shoot for Halloween.
Halloween? For what? To do a spirit rescue?
Ghost show. They could get them telling some stories.
Oh, ghost. Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. Oh, for them, maybe?
We should line up a Halloween lineup this year.
I don't know. Theirs doesn't seem as, like, Halloween-y. Yeah, we should, like, if we're going to do Halloween, like, what?
It'll be scary.
It should be more about the dark stuff, yeah. We'll get somebody that does exorcisms on Halloween.
All right. Just do everything you want to do. Big thanks to Stephen for coming on the show. Big thanks.
I'm just giving you my opinion, whatever you want.
Big thanks to you guys for listening. Extra big thanks if you're one of the few that does take the time to support, the time and financial incentive support the show, send a little value back our way. If you're getting some value out of the interviews, out of the 400 and some odd podcasts we've given you, and you want to send a little value back our way so we can keep the show going, keep it all going, Grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly today, make a one-time donation, whatever's clever. There's a bunch of way in the show notes, a bunch of things you can do in the show notes to support the show. Don't cost any money. Review the show. You guys killed it a couple weeks ago. We got like 18 reviews in 3 days or whatever. Let's do some more of that. I think they were, they're all good.
Awesome.
It's been a while since I send you all the 1 stars.
Oh, I don't get many.
Exactly.
There you go.
This is it.
Awesome.
Quality show. If you're getting some value from the quality show, send a little back our way. Grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for the newsletter. Grimerica.ca/news. Spamgram. Gram@Grimerica.com. Chats. You got to join the chats. If you're not in the chats yet, you don't get it.
There's like 700 or 800 people, really cool people in the chats.
Way cooler than Twitter and Facebook. They don't get triggered. Well, sometimes they do, but not often.
The Meme Smithery channel is fantastic.
Oh, it's a great place to be.
Pulling memes out of there and posting them on Instagram is hilarious.
Grimerica.ca/chats. All that great stuff.
We're going to win COVID with the memes.
What is it, a game? COVID's a game to you?
It's pretty much a game, yeah. Not to me, but to the...
More of a joke than a game.
To the elite, it's a game. Thanks for everybody joining the chats too. I can't pay attention to chats as it's going along, so I know Darren checks it every once in a while, but I do appreciate everybody being here.
That's on the live stream. If you guys want to check out the live stream, it's over on our YouTube channel, Grimerica.ca/YouTube.
Which there might be a problem with it. We'll have to figure this out.
You could also get it on the radio. No, YouTube's fine. It's Facebook that's fucked.
The last video wouldn't upload to YouTube. So.
That happens sometimes. I think I can fix that. Right. The Facebook has me a little more concerned, but not really, because who gives a fuck about Facebook? Anyway, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
There's a wolf on the loose. Better sleep up on the roof. I don't believe you. Where's your proof? You're scaremongering, hopes and fears, smoke and mirrors, take all your money to the grave. We'll make sure to frame your obituary page. We're all impressed with your 6-figure wage. It's time for your ego to take center stage. Take all your money to the grave. We'll make sure to on Wall Street. He's the epitome of greed. Trick you into his Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme. Insincere. Racketeer. Racketeer. Take all your money to the grave. We'll make sure to frame your obituary page. We're all impressed with your six-figure wage. It's time for your ego to take center stage. Take all your money to the grave. We'll make sure to frame your obituary page. There's a saint on Market Street. Her work here is incomplete. Fixing the moral bankruptcy. 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 It's severe. We're in arrears. In arrears. Take all this debt and wipe it clean. It's a money trap. The deepest, darkest